Welcome. As women in business, we're so busy being busy. We're juggling life and business, and we're in the hustle. And that's when we lose sight of who we really are. This podcast is here to inspire and empower you to unleash you, the one that's been hiding behind all the roles that you play. Weekly episodes will help you to find fun, energy, and flow in life, and also give you tips and tools so you can have a successful yet simple business. My guests and myself talk all things mindset, spirituality, relationships, and of course business. Live the life that you've been dreaming of. Now, let's get to the good part. Today, I'm going to share with you the best travel tips to save you time, money, and stress. Now, these tips are related to the trip that I have just done in Bali, but they are a combination of all the trips that I've done over the years, and these tips you can use to travel to any destination worldwide. So listen up. I want to share my tips on what you need to do before you book your travel, what you need to do when booking flights, what you need to do when booking accommodation, what you need to do for food, how to get around and get to the attractions, and just some other great travel tips to close it out. So let's kick it off. So as I said, these are related to my trip to Bali, but they are transferable to any destination worldwide. And it doesn't matter whether you're a first-time traveler or you are a travel guru. I'm sure there's something here that you will be able to have an aha moment and go, wow, I didn't think of that. Or, oh, I need that for my next trip. So when you've decided that you're going to go on a trip and you started to do your research, there's two main resources that I like to use. One is TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is fantastic for looking at where you're going to go, what the area's like, what attractions there are. So, what are the things to do? Where are the best places to stay? Where are the best places to eat? What tours there are, what prices, how long tours take, what their itineraries. There is so much gold in TripAdvisor. So we use it to have a look at where to go, look to see where tours go, how long people spend at different areas, how much they are, what are the key places are to visit. We also have a look at, what accommodations like, if anyone has any photos, what websites those hotels are advertised on, and also get a better idea on where to stay, because it also gives you a guide on the area as well. The other thing with TripAdvisor, it also gives you places to eat, and it's done under what type of restaurants, whether it's Italian, whether it's fast food, whether it's a cafe, what sort of price point they're at. And it also gives you your reviews. So it's a great resource for looking for restaurants and places to eat as well. It also can give you a map so you can look at where they are. The other great thing about TripAdvisor is it gives you an idea on, what there is to do in that area. And so when you're looking at where to stay and where to go, if it's somewhere new and you're not quite sure how much there is to do there or how many days you should stay there, when you look at the attractions, you'll be able to work out, okay, we need two nights there, or we need 5 nights there. That's the great thing about TripAdvisor. The other great resource value is Facebook groups. So we've just been to Bali, so, there's Bali Bogans and there's Bali groupies, and there's one just on Sanua and one just on Seminyak. And so go and find a Facebook group that suits where you're going to travel. So, there's one for America, there's one for families traveling from Australia to America. There's so many different groups to be able to join, to ask questions, to see what other types of questions people are asking, to see where to stay, to get all the hacks and things like that. So they are the two things I would look at when you're starting to put your itinerary together. Now, when it comes to flights, it does really pay to sort of be flexible and think, well, okay, well, do I need to actually go on that day? Because sometimes when you look at flights, it could be cheaper for different days. And sometimes airlines will only fly on certain days. So it does make a difference with the flight availability, but also the price and also the length of the journey. So sometimes they might do a stopover, or other times there might be, if they're doing overnights on that day you want to travel and you don't want to travel overnight, then you're going to have to change it. So with flights, I definitely recommend, we generally book direct, but what I do like to do is search on
on sites such as, Webjet, etc., so that I can compare across different days and different airlines and different routes, and different stopovers, etc. So always do your research on those, compare, like a sort of compare the market type of site, but generally book direct, because a lot of the times it's easier if you need to change things with your flights, or you want to get communication from the carrier on changes and updates. It's easier to book direct. The other thing is, if you've got flight credits, we're still using up flight credits. That's why I've just been to Bali. Always keep it a log of what flight credits you've got, because always forget them. So have a look and see, what flight credits have you got? Have you, if you're a frequent flyer, have you got points that you could use, or, use part points and part pay, points in a pay system? Can you do that to lessen the cost of the flight? You might find that with some of your bonuses. So for instance, the level of frequent flyer I am with Virgin, with Qantas, it means that I can go into the lounge beforehand, so I can eat and drink. So I don't have to worry about that. If you fly with certain airlines, they may include meals, but others might not. So if you know that you're a frequent flyer and you can go into their customer lounge, then you won't have to pay for a meal, and you might not have to do any meals. Yeah, so just think about the cost of meals as well. If you've got to add that to your travel, it can add up. One great thing that we found when we were looking at flights is, when we're going to America, is that when you looked at Expedia, sometimes it was actually better value and a lot cheaper to combine flights and hotels through Expedia. So when we started to look at just flights on their own, it was actually more expensive than booking it as a combined package. So also have a look and see where you can package things up. So when we went to Bali in November with our kids, there was a great package deal with Jetstar that was $500 for flights, accommodation, breakfast daily, one lunch or dinner, and also a daily drink. So sometimes packages can be cheaper. So normally a return flight to Bali for us would be around $600. So that shows you the value of actually combining a package. So keep an eye out as well. So, so that was Jetstar. So if you normally fly Jetstar, go and have a look at their travel deals as well. So sometimes that it can be really beneficial to combine flights and hotels as a package. So onto hotels, again, have a look and see what packages are out there, but also do your research on TripAdvisor. Have a look at what hotels are near the attractions that you want to go to. Are those hotels near everything, so you can either, catch public transport, or is it where you can walk? When you're looking at hotels, if you have a look on TripAdvisor, have a look at different reviews. Also have a look on sites like booking.com, and Airbnb, and have a look at different reviews. And also think about, when it comes to hotels, think about, is breakfast included? Because if you've got breakfast included, that can save you having to fork out more money on your trip, and it just means it's easy for you to not have to worry about that meal. Also, is parking included? Because sometimes that could add $20 a night, or, is there actually no parking at all, and you're going to have a hire car. So, have a look at that when you factor in accommodation. Is Wi-Fi included? Is linen included? Have a look and see what's included and what's not, because that can also add up when you're adding extra costs in. Do they offer free transport to and from airports? Have a look at that as well. One thing that often gets overlooked is check-in and check-out times. So, if you know that you're flying in late, so at Bali we flew in at 10:30 at night. If check-in closes at 9 p.m, then how are you going to check in? So just make sure you've got that covered. And when it comes to checking out, so our flight out of Bali was 11:30 at night. Our checkout was 12. When we asked about late checkout, it was going to cost us $110 to stay later. So what we did was we checked out at 12. We'd gone on to booking.com and saw that we can get a hotel right near the airport, so no stress and have to worry about traffic. We could go and stay in this hotel from 1 o'clock till 9 p.m. for $40, and there were some for $50, and we could just go and dump our bags there, go and explore the area, go and have something to eat, come back, freshen up, go and have dinner, then come back, get changed into our clothes to travel in. So, out of shorts and t-shirts into jeans and long sleeve shirts, ready to travel back. So it was worth it, and also cost us half the price, and it was less stress because we were closer to the airport. And we also got to experience another area and another hotel. So it just, it added to our holiday. So that's another thing to really be mindful of, check in and check out times. Now, with hotels, as I said, you want to check the sites for, reviews, any issues that may come up that, you might see that they're renovating. So, the room that you want is probably not available. Location too, if you want to be right in the thick of it, make sure you're looking to see where a hotel is located. If you like being somewhere quieter, then go on the outskirts. And sometimes those places can be cheaper as well. And you can look at different sites to compare hotels, but also, have a look if you go onto that hotel's website directly, do they give you a better deal by booking direct? And now sometimes it's a trade-off. If you book direct, you may have to pay up front, or if you book on Airbnb, you've got to pay up front. But if you book on booking.com, you don't have to pay till either a couple of days before or when you actually check in. So look and see what works with your travel style and your budget. For us, we like to use booking.com because we like to pay, a couple of days before or when we check in. So that works well for us. Also, have a look at cancellation policies. So, if you like to be able to wait till the week before and look to see, what's around, you may want to change your accommodation because something better might have come up, or you may have realised that, hey, it's not really the area that you want to be in, you want to be over further. So just have a look at those cancellation policies as well. The other thing that you want to have a look at, is what kind of accommodation you like. So we like something that's nice, that's clean, that's sensual, that has, restaurants around it if we can. And what we did this time is we booked 5-star accommodation in, the last couple of nights of our trip. So we knew that we could have that time to relax, just really enjoy it. It had all the facilities, it had kitchen and a lounge area and a bit more space, and it had its own private pool. So we just had a bit more space. So if you're going to be somewhere a bit longer, what facilities do you want? What amenities do you want? So if you know that you're not going to be in your hotel room much, then you don't need a big fancy villa with a pool. So just really look at that as well when you're looking at accommodation. Now, when it comes to food, again, we want to be looking at TripAdvisor to see what food options there are, because it'll say, do you want Chinese? Do you want Thai? Do you want Indian? Do you want pub food? Do you want cafes? And it'll give you a bit of a guide on what's in your area, because you look by map. You can also look by budget and also get people's feedback. You can also go onto Facebook pages and look. You can also look at their Instagram and see how active they are. Do Google. There's lots of different ways to actually check it out, and for restaurants, for all the travel we've done over the last 10 years, we've always looked at TripAdvisor, and we've never had a bad restaurant yet. So I 100% recommend TripAdvisor for looking at restaurants, and you can book through there. You can ask questions of other travelers. So just a great resource. And some tips around budgets with food. So, some places will have a 2-for-1 deal, or they'll have their signature dishes, which a lot of time are better value than picking other meals. There might be different specials on. So, of course, there's happy hour all the time. Some restaurants will have, a certain deal on a certain night or before a certain time. So some restaurants, but if you sit down before 6, you might get 20% or 30% discount. So have a look at that. Sometimes the place where you stay, the hotel might have a deal where, their restaurant or a restaurant that's affiliated with them, you might get a 10% discount. Also, if you're a member of a, certain hotel chains, they'll also give you discounts as well. So have a look at that. And again, I said, with the breakfast tip, if you can get somewhere that includes breakfast, then that's great. And a lot of the times with the hotels, they'll say, if you eat at our restaurants, we'll give you discounts as well. So definitely make sure you do that. As a bit of a hint, sometimes we would save, when we got our breakfast in our villa, we would save the fruit platter for later on in the afternoon. So then we'd had, a big breakfast, and then we would just save the fruit and have that sort of after lunch. And then they would tide us over till dinner. So sometimes you've just been savvy around meal choices, and that way, that's a whole expensive lunch that you don't then have to pay for, or just have something light or share something. Okay, so when it comes to things to do and attractions, again, TripAdvisor is your best friend. They'll have different tours on there and different attractions, so you can work out, what to see and what not to see. When you go to Bali, you want to do all the amazing things, but you might not be interested in temples, so then you would take that part out. You can have a look to see where the tours go, so you can get an idea. So you can either book a tour through TripAdvisor, which we've done a few and they've been fantastic. Or, you can sort of build your own trip, which is what we do a lot of the times. We go and look at, when I went to New Zealand, okay, so the main tours go here, here, and here. So then we did the actual independent tour ourselves. So that way, if you go to a stop that you don't like, then if you do it independently, you can leave. Whereas if you do it as part of a tour group, you're stuck there for 2 hours waiting for everyone else. So there's pros and cons of whether you do something as a group, as an organised tour, or do your own itinerary. And sometimes, it might be cheaper too if you, just went and paid a driver to drive you around for half a day or a full day. It might be actually more economical if there's a group of you then doing it as part of a tour, and you've got more flexibility then as well. And one of the tips that we learned on this trip in Bali is that we were looking at going to this, it's like a palace, water fountain palace, and it's a beautiful palace, and there's all water around it and gardens, and it's beautiful. But when we looked at it, it was going to be 40 minutes to get there and 40 minutes to get back. And then, it was going to cost us, say, I don't know, $30 or $40. Well, when we looked at it on the map, we were actually almost going past that to go to our next destination the next day. So we said to the driver, actually, if we go there tomorrow instead, because he was taking us to our next hotel, if we go there, can we do that? And he said, yes. And we said, well, how much extra? He goes, well, it's on the way. It doesn't matter. So we not only saved time, we also saved money, and it was actually so much better for our trip to actually do that on the way. It made more sense. So we had plenty of time the next day between checking out and checking into the next place. It actually made more sense to go the next day. So just think about that too, really map out where you're going to go. When you are also looking at, attractions, sometimes you might get discounts to book online. Sometimes, if a website is part of a, they sort of compare groups, so, like the ferries will compare different ones. Sometimes it's cheaper to then go and actually book direct on that site. It's often times too with ferries where you might need to make sure you book in advance so that you get the one that you want, because they can book out quickly. So just look to, attractions that book out quickly. Make sure you book online prior to that. And the other thing to do is also sometimes location specific. So in Bali, if you wanted a day bed down on the beach, they would charge you, like $10 each bed. But because we were savvy and we were in Facebook groups, we knew that if we actually went up and said, well, actually, we're going to have some drinks, that they would actually give us the day beds for free, because you're going to buy drinks, and you're going to consume drinks and you're going to consume food. And so that made a difference, and on one of the occasions, we wanted to snorkel out the front, and this place said, well, we'll give you free bed and free snorkel as if you're going to buy some drinks. And so we did. We bought some drinks. We both had a massage. So they actually make more money by doing that. So just really, do your research on where you're going, and, talk to other people. We spoke to a lot of other people. So, where have you been? Who did you go with? How long did it take you? How much was it? And you sort of say, if you're at a restaurant, well, how was your meal? Where did you eat when you went? Where did you eat yesterday? Where are you going? And really talk to other people as well. So not only use the resources as, Facebook groups and TripAdvisor and those sorts of platforms, but also talk to people around you, talk to other tourists, talk to other guests, talk to the locals as well, and go, what do other people do? So there's so much there around saving time and saving money as well, but also to make your experience better. Now, the last thing is when it comes to travel is, things like getting around. So if you're going to be, getting taxis or ride share or using buses or ferries, always have a look at, there's different websites and apps that you can use to compare. So, if we're going to be traveling, so, okay, what is it if we hired a personal driver? What is it if we call it just a taxi? What happens if we flag someone down at the front? How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to cost? You like in Bali, you can go onto Gojek and it will tell you how much a bike is, how much a car is, how much to get a taxi. And then you can go out and ask the local driver at the front and ask him how much. So, and sometimes it can be quite a significant difference. So, and just making sure that you're upfront and saying, okay, well, how much it takes from here to here and how long you're going to spend. And sometimes it might actually be better value for a driver to take you, wait for an hour or 2 hours and then bring you back rather than get, a one-way transfer each way. So definitely some great savvy tips around saving time and saving money. And things, like, as I said, with ferries, we found that normally we would book on the ferry sites, but this time around we let the hotel that we were going to book our ferry over and our ferry back. And we found that was a lot more economical. And because we were booking through them, our transfers, they were the ones picking you up and taking you to the hotel. So we didn't have to worry about trying to find it. And then we found it more economical to get the hotel that we were staying at to take us to the next hotel sometimes. Sometimes that was cheaper. So just always look at the different options, because sometimes that can add up. And that's sort of pretty much rounds out my best tips for travel, for saving time, money, and stress. So, if you sort of take anything out of those, it would be definitely using the platforms, TripAdvisor and Facebook groups. And, and if you're not a Facebook user, then, there is other forums out there where, you can put an Instagram story up and say to people, hey, I'm traveling to Paris. Where's your go-to restaurants, or where's your go-to attractions? So you don't even have to be a Facebook user or a Facebook group person. You can post it on any platform and ask people for their advice. Just put a question box in. So, we had just had a note section on my phone where we'd say, we're going to Ahmed. These are the restaurants that we've earmarked. These are the different attractions we want to see. And we'd have the notes in there, or a piece of paper printed out that said, what hotel we were going to, what type of room we booked, how much we paid, whether it including breakfast. Have all those things on there handy, so that have like a bit of a cheat sheet, so you know what you've paid for, where you're going, how long it should normally take. It's going to be half an hour to that next destination, and have all that there. Like, do that before you go, and then that next day when you're going to transfer to another place, then have a look at what you're going to do that next day. So that just made it so much easier for us when we talk to someone, they'd say about a restaurant and a location that we're going to go to next week. We could jump into the notes and pop that in there. So just some great tips for traveling, whether you're traveling, anywhere in Australia or anywhere around the world. They're my top tips. Reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook and let me know if any of these tips were helpful to you. If you've got any tips, also let me know, because I'd also love to share them with the audience. And until next time, that's it from me.
Before you press stop, thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, do the 3 S's. Subscribe so you never miss an episode each Thursday. Shout out to your community so they can be inspired and empowered. And share with me your aha moments and your takeaways. By doing this, it helps this podcast to inspire and impact more women globally, so they can have a fulfilling life and business. I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram, the Sharon Cliff. And if you want to know more about me or how you can work with me, head to my website, sharoncliff.com.au. See you next time. Ooh.